They chased eternal youth with needles and scalpels and ended up starring in Hollywood's scariest horror show, The Attack of the Melted Faces. Once icons of beauty, now unrecognizable wax dolls. Was it the doctor's fault, vanity's curse, or both? From supermodels to super mistakes, buckle up for a jaw-dropping ride through the cosmetic calamities of the rich and famous, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next plot twist. Linda Evangelista, from runway royalty to cool sculpting catastrophe. She didn't wake up for less than $10,000 a day, but apparently, she did show up for 7 sessions of cool sculpting. Yes, that Linda Evangelista. The supermodel who once ruled magazine covers like a runway empress, reduced not by age, but by a fat-freezing fiasco that turned into a beauty horror story. In the 90s, Linda was untouchable, cheekbones that could cut glass, a walk that made the world stop. But in 2015 and 2016, she decided to melt away stubborn fat using a procedure that sounded more like a spa day than surgery. Non-invasive, they said. Safe, they promised. What she got? A rare side effect that less than 1% of patients ever encounter. Paradoxical adipose hyperplasia. Translation? Instead of shrinking fat, her chin, thighs, and chest expanded into hard, bulging lumps. Cool sculpting turned into cruel sculpting. She went under the knife twice to fix it. No luck. The damage was done. Her once iconic face became a cautionary tale. Her symmetry shattered. Paparazzi no longer chased her, because fans barely recognized her. And in a world that demands eternal youth from women, Linda chose isolation over explanation. From catwalk queen to cosmetic cautionary tale, Evangelista's story isn't just about beauty gone wrong. It's a chilling reminder that even the most flawless faces can fall victim to the pursuit of perfection. Lisa Rinna, the lips that launched 1,000 memes. Before the Real Housewives drama, before the meme-worthy meltdowns, Lisa Rinna's biggest plot twist wasn't on screen. It was on her face. Or, more specifically, her lips. In 1986, at the tender age of 20, Lisa made a bold decision that would define her for decades: permanent silicone lip injections. Inspired by beaches, she wanted big, bold, pouty lips. She got them. Oh, she got them all right. At first, it was her signature, the full lip look before Kylie Jenner turned it into a billion-dollar industry. But what started as a beauty flex turned into a cosmetic curse. Over time, the silicone hardened, lumps formed, swelling followed. Her lips became less glamorous pout and more science experiment gone rogue. Fast forward 25 years, yes, 25, and Lisa finally went to a Beverly Hills doc to remove scar tissue. Too little, too late. The damage had set in like a bad Botox party. Her lips weren't the only thing getting the filler treatment. Lisa went full throttle with Botox, cheek fillers, and a breast augmentation or two. By 2010, fans were asking, is that Lisa Rinna or a Madame Tussauds version of Lisa Rinna? By 2024, amid mounting criticism and internet sleuths dissecting her face like it was a CSI episode, Lisa came clean. She admitted some fillers just didn't sit right on her face. She even dissolved part of them. Brave move, but the public had already bookmarked her journey as a what not to do guide in plastic surgery. Was she trying to fight age, stay relevant, or simply fix what time had altered? Whatever the reason, Lisa's transformation reminds us all, when you go chasing perfection with needles, sometimes what you catch bites back. Joan Van Ark, the soap star who slipped on too much soap. Once America's sweetheart in Knots Landing, Joan Van Ark had the kind of delicate beauty that lit up TV screens in the 70s and 80s. But somewhere between her final scene and her first facelift, something went off script. It started innocently enough, a rhinoplasty here, a touch-up there, but the early 90s brought a full-blown obsession. First came the eyelid surgery that left her looking like she hadn't blinked in a decade. Then the facelifts, multiple ones. Add in chemical peels and enough Botox to freeze a Thanksgiving turkey. And suddenly, the woman once known for her warm expressions looked like she was permanently bracing for a wind tunnel. By the 2000s, Joan's face had morphed into something almost porcelain, taut, pale, hollowed around the eyes and mouth. Not even the strongest filter on Instagram could compete. When she appeared at the 40th anniversary of Knots Landing, fans didn't ask. "Where's Valine?" they asked. What happened to her face? Her lips? Tighter than the show's budget in season 6. Her cheeks? Lifted higher than a Beverly Hills rent check. Her eyes? Like twin saucers. Wide, startled, and emotionally unavailable. Joan didn't just overdo it. She rewrote the manual on cosmetic excess. And while Hollywood may be unforgiving to aging actresses, Joan's story is a poignant reminder. The pursuit of eternal youth can come at the cost of the very identity that made you iconic. If you've made it this far, we want to hear from you. Comment 1 if you loved this video and want more shocking stories. Comment 3 if you think excessive plastic surgery has gone way too far. We're watching those comments like a surgeon watches symmetry. Don't hold back. The Duchess of Alba, royalty, riches, and a face, frozen in time. She was one of the most titled women in the world, a living piece of European history. But Maria del Rosario Cayetana Fitz-James Stuart, the Duchess of Alba, didn't just want a legacy. She wanted eternal youth. And let's just say, not even nobility can Botox its way out of biology. Born into wealth, power, and palaces, the Duchess could have aged gracefully with pearls and poetry. Instead, she chose plastic and peels. Starting in the 1980s, she began a royal affair with the scalpel. Nose jobs, facelifts, lip fillers, Botox, you name it. Her goal? Timeless beauty. The result? Timeless confusion. By the time she walked down the aisle at age 85, marrying a man 24 years her junior. Because why not? The only thing more surprising than her third wedding was her appearance. Her face looked like a wax statue left too long in the Spanish sun. Stretched, shiny, and startling, it bore little resemblance to the once delicate features that graced European tabloids. To make matters worse, she reportedly suffered from Melkerson-Rosenthal syndrome, a rare condition that causes facial swelling. But instead of working with it, she tried to fight it, with surgery after surgery that only made things worse, like trying to cover a leak with glitter glue. In the end, not even her noble blood could shield her from the harsh glare of public scrutiny. And while she remained a beloved, eccentric figure in Spanish society, her face became the ultimate cautionary tale, proof that even with castles and crowns, you can't outwit time, only anger it. LaToya Jackson, a thriller in the mirror. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and in the Jackson family, that tree came with a surgical scalpel and a rhinoplasty discount. LaToya Jackson, the fifth child of the famous Jackson clan, once had a soft, radiant beauty all her own. In the early 80s, she was carving out her identity with a solo music career, sultry album covers, and a look that was uniquely hers, until her nose decided to go on a shrinking spree. By the early 90s, LaToya's nose was already raising eyebrows, mainly because hers were now permanently arched from what looked suspiciously like a brow lift. Inspired or perhaps haunted by the surgical saga of her brother Michael, she took the same route and then some. The more she altered, the less she resembled the shy, graceful Jackson sister fans once knew. Her face became a surgical maze, multiple nose jobs that left her with a narrow, almost pinched profile, cheek implants that added sharp, unnatural volume, chin augmentations, eyelid surgery, and enough filler to stock a small clinic. The result? A waxy, tight, stretched appearance that made fans wonder if the Joker had a younger sister. Her eyes, once warm and almond-shaped, now appeared wide and frozen, the result of overzealous blepharoplasty. Her smile, once gentle, became fixed and unnatural. Even her skin tone seemed to shift, matching the pale, almost translucent sheen that echoed her brother's later years. But what's perhaps most tragic about LaToya's transformation isn't just what was changed, it's what was lost. In trying to emulate an ideal that never truly existed, she erased much of what made her distinct. Her story serves as yet another chapter in the Jackson family's complicated legacy with fame, identity, and the high price of perfection. Dolly Parton, plastic, fantastic, and proud of it. Dolly Parton once said, "It costs a lot of money to look this cheap." And honestly, she wasn't lying or apologizing. In a world where stars sneak off to surgeons like it's a witness protection program, Dolly walked in heels, rhinestones, and a wink, straight into the operating room. No shame, no secrets. From the 1980s onward, the Queen of Country wasn't just singing about heartbreak. She was re-engineering her entire face to keep the sparkle alive. It started modestly enough, a little nip, a gentle tuck. But soon came the nose jobs, the brow lifts, the eyelid surgeries, and later facelifts tight enough to bounce a quarter off her cheek. Dolly's always been in on the joke, but let's be honest, sometimes the punchline hit a little too close to the Botox. Over time, her once soft, expressive features became smooth, shiny, and suspiciously still. Her skin, flawless and kind of plastic. Her eyes, big, bright, and permanently surprised. Her smile, as dazzling as ever, but a little less mobile. By age 60, she was going full cartoon, literally. She openly admitted she wanted to look like a showgirl version of Mother Goose. Mission accomplished. Dolly became the ultimate living doll, part human, part fantasy, all sparkle. And while most of the celebrities on this list slowly slipped into surgery denial, Dolly leaned into it with both surgically enhanced arms. "If I see something sagging, bagging, or dragging," she said, "I'm gonna get it nipped, tucked, or sucked." But beneath the sequins and silicone, there's an undeniable truth. Dolly's sense of self never changed. Unlike many who lost themselves under the scalpel, she managed to keep her heart, humor, and humanity intact, even if a few other things got reattached. She's not a cautionary tale. She's the exception that proves the rule. But even Dolly will tell you, being Barbie ain't easy, honey. Goldie Hawn, forever young or just forever frozen? Goldie Hawn once lit up Hollywood like a bottle of sunshine. All golden curls, sparkling eyes, and that infectious, quirky laugh. But somewhere along the way, that iconic glow got traded for something tighter, shinier, and a little too surprised. When she stepped onto the 2014 Academy Awards red carpet, jaws dropped, and not in the flattering way. Her face was noticeably different. Plump cheeks, stretched jawline, and eyes that looked permanently wide-eyed, as if she'd just spotted paparazzi hiding in her closet. Experts speculated Botox, fillers, facelifts, and a possible eyelid surgery that took too much skin, leaving her gaze oddly frozen. Gone was the soft, natural beauty fans adored in Overboard and Private Benjamin. In its place was a face trying desperately to hold on, like a balloon pumped a bit too full. By 2017, her return to the screen in Snatched only stirred more whispers. Viewers couldn't decide what was more distracting, the punchlines or the plastic. To be fair, aging in Hollywood is brutal, but Goldie's transformation became a visual reminder of the fine line between preserving youth and losing your essence. Her smile still sparkled, but it didn't quite move the same. And that signature twinkle in her eyes, well, it seemed a little too wide to be winking anymore. Goldie didn't vanish like some stars do. She stayed bold, vocal, and present. But her face told a story she might not have scripted. A story not of vanity, but of vulnerability, wrapped in surgical tape and hopeful intention. Michaela Romanini, from Italian, it girl, to cautionary lip icon. In the late 90s, Michaela Romanini was Italy's answer to Paris Hilton. Glamorous, mysterious, always photographed stepping out of a luxury car or into a high-profile gala. With her cascading brunette hair and aristocratic beauty, she didn't need to try too hard. But try she did, with a syringe. It started innocently, as these things often do, a little collagen here, a touch of Botox there. Just enough to smooth a line, plump a pout. But somewhere between cocktail parties and cosmetic appointments, Michaela crossed the line, from high society beauty to tabloid spectacle. Her lips, once subtly full, became inflated to near cartoon proportions. Glossy, overfilled, and dramatically swollen, they took center stage, eclipsing every other feature. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her mouth looked permanently stunned, like she had just heard terrible gossip and never recovered. But Michaela didn't stop at her lips. Botox froze her forehead into a constant, wide-eyed stare. Cheek fillers puffed her face into a rounder, more artificial version of itself. Each attempt to correct the last one only made things worse. What was meant to preserve her youth ended up erasing the very elegance that once defined her. She became a punchline in celebrity columns, a meme in internet circles. But beneath the spectacle was something more sobering, a woman so terrified of aging she sculpted herself into someone even she could barely recognize. There's something haunting about her transformation, not just physically, but emotionally. The pursuit of perfection didn't just warp her features, it took away the effortless confidence she once exuded. Michaela Romanini remains a powerful reminder. Beauty isn't always lost with age. Sometimes it's lost in the desperate fight against it. Kenny Rogers, the gambler who bet on Botox and lost. He knew when to hold 'em, knew when to fold 'em, but apparently didn't know when to stop with the cosmetic surgery. Country music legend Kenny Rogers had a voice as smooth as Tennessee whiskey and the rugged charm of a Marlboro man. That is, until his eyebrows suddenly started reaching for the sky. In the late 1990s, Kenny stared down the barrel of aging under the spotlight. Instead of leaning into the silver fox vibe, he chose the scalpel, multiple times. First came the eyelid lift, then the face lifts, then, well, no one really knows. One day, he looked like a country star. The next, like he'd wandered off the set of a sci-fi movie where everyone had the same startled expression. Fans were baffled. "Is that Kenny Rogers?" they'd ask, squinting like they were trying to solve a magic eye puzzle. His famously warm eyes, pulled tight, his signature lines, ironed into oblivion. It was as if he'd swapped out his weathered cowboy look for a wax museum replica with anxiety issues. And the man himself? Oh, Kenny knew. He admitted it, publicly. "Regret," he said, plain and simple. The surgeries didn't give him the youthful boost he'd hoped for. Instead, they took away the rugged masculinity that made him an icon. His new face didn't match his old soul. Yet even with a face fans barely recognized, his voice remained untouched, still wrapping around lyrics like a comforting flannel blanket. Until his passing in 2020, Kenny reminded us of one brutal truth: in the game of cosmetic surgery, you better know when to walk away. Melanie Griffith, when Hollywood's golden girl went a shade too far. Melanie Griffith once embodied that effortless 90s charm, sultry, sweet, and just rebellious enough to land roles in Working Girl and Body Double. But somewhere between the red carpets and relentless flashbulbs, the pressure to stay forever 35 caught up with her and her face. In the late 90s, Melanie began dabbling in the usual Hollywood starter pack: Botox, fillers, and a facelift or two. At first, the changes were subtle: a smoother forehead, a little extra volume here and there. But over time, things got more obvious. Her lips became overly plumped, her cheeks unnaturally round, and her skin so tight it could have doubled as a drum. By the mid-2000s, fans started whispering, and by 2017, Melanie herself admitted what everyone was thinking. She didn't realize how far it had gone until others pointed it out. That soft vulnerability that once defined her screen presence, replaced by stiffness and a sense of disconnect, like her expressions had been packed away in cold storage. She tried to reverse the damage, dissolving fillers, stepping back from procedures. But the Hollywood machine doesn't have an undo button. What she lost wasn't just youth, but the very face that told her story. Melanie's journey wasn't one of vanity, but of survival. In an industry where aging is a career risk and the mirror becomes your harshest critic. And in the end, it wasn't the scalpel that betrayed her. It was the illusion that beauty has a deadline. Daryl Hannah, the mermaid who lost her magic. Back in the 80s, Daryl Hannah was the ethereal beauty every director dreamed of. In Splash, she played a mermaid, and it wasn't just the tale that made people believe. She had that rare natural glow, soft, expressive, almost otherworldly. Fast forward a few decades and that glow, let's just say it got Botoxed into submission. In the early 2000s, fans started noticing something. Her eyes, once wide and emotive, looked tighter, thinner, like she was stuck mid-surprise. Rumors swirled about eyelid surgery gone too far. Then came the telltale signs: cheeks fuller than a Thanksgiving turkey, lips suddenly plumped like overripe fruit, and skin pulled taut like a Hollywood facelift demo reel. Daryl never confirmed the procedures, but she didn't have to. Her face did the talking, or at least used to. Over time, her expressions became muted, her natural softness lost beneath a layer of interventions that seemed to work against what made her special. She slowly stepped back from the spotlight, focusing on activism and environmental causes. Admirable, yes. But fans couldn't help but mourn the on-screen presence that once felt so human, so alive. Daryl's transformation is one of the more tragic chapters in the celebrity surgery saga, a woman who once didn't need anything done, slowly becoming someone even she might not recognize in the mirror. Not out of vanity, but perhaps fear. Fear of fading, of irrelevance, of being forgotten in an industry that worships youth like a religion. And in trying to hold on to her image, she let go of what made it unforgettable. Brigitte Nielsen, from Red Sonja to real-life reinvention gone rogue. Brigitte Nielsen once towered over Hollywood, literally. At 6 feet tall with razor-sharp cheekbones and Amazonian confidence, she was unforgettable in Red Sonja, Rocky IV, and any room she walked into. But as time passed, Brigitte didn't just want to age gracefully, she wanted to age backwards, and she had scalpels on speed dial. By her mid-40s, Brigitte hit the reality show circuit, starring in From Old to New, a televised transformation that documented every slice, lift, and injection. Facelift? Check. Eyelid surgery? Of course. Liposuction, Botox, lip fillers? You bet. Watching her new face unfold was like watching a sci-fi reboot, shiny, stretched, and oddly synthetic. Her once bold features became glossy and geometric, as if someone tried to redraw her face from memory and used a ruler. The large, expressive eyes that once captivated audiences were now narrower, a casualty of overzealous eyelid correction. Her skin, smooth, yes, but also strangely tight, like it had been laminated. To her credit, Brigitte never pretended it was all kale smoothies and good lighting. She owned her surgeries, even said she was happy with them. And in some ways, that honesty is refreshing in a world of I just drink a lot of water celebrity beauty lies. But no amount of transparency can erase the fact that Brigitte's quest for youth came at the cost of what made her captivating, that raw, fearless Nordic goddess energy. In trying to preserve the legend, she rewrote it, with a scalpel. Suzanne Somers, the queen of clean living and not-so-clean procedures. Suzanne Somers built a brand on glowing health, hormone balance, and the gospel of natural aging, all while quietly becoming a walking contradiction with skin tighter than a Pilates band. Best known as the bubbly blonde Chrissy Snow on Three's Company, Suzanne was once the poster girl for youthful charm. But as the decades rolled in, so did the facelifts, Botox, and fillers, only they weren't listed in her vitamin regimen. For years, she swore her age-defying look came from bioidentical hormones and green juice. And sure, maybe part of it did, but no amount of kale explains how her jawline looked like it had been sculpted with a protractor, or how her forehead became so smooth it reflected light like a kitchen countertop. Her cheeks? Plumped. Lips? Fuller. Nasolabial folds? Gone. Almost suspiciously so. Eventually, Suzanne admitted she had used fillers and regretted it. Some had shifted over time, leaving her face slightly off-kilter, like a picture frame hung just a little too far to the left. The irony, while preaching the gospel of natural wellness, her face was telling a very different story. One of touch-ups, tweaks, and tension. Fans who once loved her girl next door vibe now squinted, trying to locate the girl in the mirror. Suzanne remained charming, enthusiastic, and vibrant to the end. But her appearance became a cautionary whisper behind every wellness mantra she preached, proof that even those who sell natural can still fall for the illusion of more. Caitlyn Jenner, a transformation beyond skin deep. Caitlyn Jenner's transition was one of the most public and most scrutinized in modern celebrity history. But while her courage in embracing her true identity was rightly celebrated, her journey through cosmetic surgery sparked a different kind of conversation. In 2015, Caitlyn underwent a 10-hour facial feminization surgery that included an eyebrow lift, jawline sculpting, nose refinement, and cheek implants, all carefully orchestrated to soften her features and help her reflect the woman she always felt herself to be. The result was dramatic and undeniably feminine, but not without controversy. As the years passed, more procedures followed, lip and cheek fillers, Botox to iron out any signs of aging, and revisions to earlier work. Her face took on that familiar Hollywood sheen, tight in all the expected places, but with the telltale signs of having gone just a bit too far. Her forehead? Smooth as glass. Her eyes? Pulled slightly, giving her a look that some said bordered on permanently startled. Critics were quick to pounce, of course, because nothing in Hollywood draws attention quite like transformation. But for Caitlyn, it wasn't just about vanity. Her surgeries were part of a deeper quest, not to stay young, but to finally look in the mirror and see someone she recognized. Still, in a world where beauty standards are already cruelly rigid, Caitlyn's enhanced appearance raised questions. At what point does affirming identity slip into chasing perfection? And how much of her current look is about gender? And how much is about fame? Caitlyn's story isn't a cautionary tale like the others. It's more complex. A mix of bravery, reinvention, and the very human desire to be seen even when the mirror sometimes distorts what we're looking for. Donatella Versace, fashion royalty, frozen in time. Donatella Versace didn't just inherit a fashion empire, she became it. Platinum hair, bronzed skin, black leather everything. She was the walking embodiment of Italian glam. But somewhere between couture runways and camera flashes, her face joined the haute couture, reconstructed, redefined, and regrettably rigid. It started subtly. A refined nose here, a fuller lip there. But by the early 2000s, Donatella's transformation was less evolution and more extreme makeover, Milan edition. Her skin took on a glossy, almost lacquered look, stretched taut like the leather she so famously designed. cheeks puffed with filler, lips ballooned into caricature, and her eyelids looked surgically startled, like she was permanently gasping at a shocking runway debut. And yet, Donatella never apologized. She leaned into the look, strutted through fashion weeks like her face wasn't the elephant in the room. In a world where beauty changes with every season, hers became seasonless, frozen in every sense. Critics called her unrecognizable. Fans called her iconic. And maybe she's both, a cautionary tale in contour, and also a reminder that in fashion, too much is sometimes exactly the point. But beneath the procedures lies a woman who watched a dynasty rise, fall, and rebuild, and refused to let time soften her edge. If her face became a mask, perhaps it was armor. After all, when you carry the Versace name, fading isn't an option, even if it means never blinking again. Mickey Rourke, the boxer who fought his own face. Mickey Rourke wasn't just a Hollywood heartthrob. He was the smoldering rebel with a whisper voice and a gaze that could melt asphalt. But when acting couldn't scratch the itch anymore, Mickey did what any brooding star might do. He became a boxer. And that's when the punches started landing, not just in the ring, but on his legacy. Years of brutal matches left his once chiseled face battered. Broken nose? 5 times. Cheekbones? Smashed. He turned to surgery not for vanity, but for repair. The problem? He chose the wrong surgeons. What followed was a series of reconstructions that left his face looking swollen, off balance, and glossy, like a wax statue slowly melting under stage lights. Botox, dermal fillers, and repeated nose jobs piled on. His lips puffed unnaturally, his forehead smoothed into plastic, and his trademark intensity, lost beneath layers of unsuccessful fixes. Fans were stunned. What happened to Mickey Rourke became a question more about his face than his career. But unlike many stars who hide behind vague statements and blurry filters, Mickey was brutally honest. He owned his mistakes, admitted the botched surgeries, and then he acted his heart out in The Wrestler, earning critical acclaim with a face that couldn't move, but eyes that still told the truth. Mickey's story isn't just about vanity gone wrong. It's about a man trying to rebuild both inside and out, and discovering too late that some things, especially the past, don't stitch up clean.